Welcome to Modern Skills in English. Today, we're talking about one of the most difficult situations at school or work. How to lead a group project when you have no official power. How to be a leader when you're not the boss.
I immediately feel anxious hearing that. I've been in so many group projects where I had an idea, but I was too afraid to say it. I didn't want the others to think I was trying to take over or that I was arrogant.
So you stayed quiet.
Or I would say my idea in a really weak way and it would just get ignored. The worst feeling is when the group is heading in a bad direction and you know it, but you feel powerless to change things. You just end up sitting there feeling frustrated and doing all the extra work yourself at the last minute to save the grade.
You believe that to lead, you have to push your idea against the group.
Yes, and that feels aggressive. It feels bossy. So the options are be bossy or be quiet. Both feel wrong. But what if you're the only one who sees the problem? How do you guide people without making them feel like you're grabbing control?
That's the perfect question, because it shows where most students get stuck. They think leadership is about having the best ideas and getting people to follow them.
Isn't it?
That's management. That's what a boss with formal authority does. But informal leadership, leading your peers, is a completely different skill. It's not about pushing your vision. It's about pulling clarity out of chaos.
Pulling clarity out of chaos. I'm not sure I understand.
The real job of an informal leader isn't to have all the answers. It's to make the problem so clear that the right answer becomes obvious to everyone. You're not the hero with the plan. You're the guide who helps everyone see the map.
A guide. Okay, but how do you do that in practice, in a real project?
It starts by changing your first move. Most people start by proposing their solution. This is a mistake.
Why? If you have a good idea, shouldn't you share it?
When you start with, here's my idea, you force everyone into a yes or no position. They have to judge you and your idea. It becomes a battle of opinions. The default student belief is that the person with the most confident-sounding idea wins.
I've seen that happen a lot. The loudest person often decides the direction of the project, even if their idea isn't the best.
Exactly. It fails because it creates division from the very first moment. A better way is to ignore solutions completely at the start. Instead, you frame the problem. You get everyone to agree on the challenge before you even think about the answer.
Frame the problem? What does that look like?
Instead of saying, I think we should do a presentation with a video, you say, okay, let's quickly agree on our main goal. Is it just to get a good grade, or is it to do something genuinely interesting? After everyone agrees, you can say, what's the biggest risk we face with this project? What's the most common reason groups get a bad grade on this assignment?
The biggest risk is usually that the presentation is boring and everyone just reads from their slides.
Exactly. Now you have named a common enemy, a boring presentation. You're not fighting each other over ideas. You're all united looking at the same problem. Once you have that shared understanding, that's when you can start searching for a solution together. You have to build consensus first.
So you get everyone to agree on the problem before talking about the answer. We're all on the same team against the problem. That feels different. It feels less like a competition.
Okay, that makes sense for starting a project. But what happens next? The project starts and you have to decide who does what. I always hate that part. Saying, you should do the research or I'll do the slides still feels like giving orders. You're right. That's the second common belief, that a leader must assign tasks. But again, that's a manager's job. When you tell a peer what to do, you take away their autonomy, their feeling of control, and people resist that. So what's the alternative? How do we get things done if no one is assigning tasks? You ask questions that make the tasks obvious. Your goal is to facilitate the conversation so the team assigns the tasks to themselves. What kind of questions? They are called generative questions. They create possibilities instead of demanding a single answer. For example, instead of saying, okay, Tom, you need to do the research, you could ask the whole group, what are the two most important jobs we need to do this week?
Someone would probably say we need to do the initial research and we need to create an outline.
Perfect. Now you ask another question. Based on those two jobs, who feels more drawn to the research part and who enjoys structuring ideas for the outline? You're not telling anyone what to do. You're inviting them to choose based on their skills or interests. You make them the architects of the plan.
I see. The team creates the structure, so they feel ownership over it. You're just guiding the conversation.
You are facilitating their success. A good informal leader asks questions that help the team think better. What does the first step look like? What could go wrong here? How will we know when we are finished with this part? These questions create clarity, and clarity is what motivates people to act.
This is a huge shift for me. My goal isn't to have the answers, but to ask the questions that lead the group to the answers. But there's a third problem I always face. The project is moving, but someone isn't doing their part. The deadline is coming closer.
And you feel you have to chase them, to remind them, to be the accountability police.
Yes, I hate it. It feels like I'm their parent. Did you finish your section yet? It's so uncomfortable and it creates tension.
This is the third belief that traps students, that leadership means holding people accountable. This often fails because it focuses on the person, not the work. It feels personal. The secret here is to focus on the next small step. People don't avoid big projects. They avoid the confusing, unclear first action.
What do you mean?
A goal like finish the report is huge and intimidating. It's easy to procrastinate on. An informal leader's job is to break it down and make the very next step obvious and small for everyone. You create momentum.
How small?
So small it feels almost silly not to do it. At the end of a meeting, instead of saying, "Okay, everyone work on their parts for next week," you say, "So, what is the single most important thing we need to do by tomorrow?" Maybe it's just that Maria finds 3 academic sources, and I create a shared Google Doc and send everyone the link. Can we all agree to just that?
That does feel easier. It's a concrete action, not a vague goal.
Exactly. And you do it publicly. Everyone agrees. The next day, when the Google Doc is there and Maria has posted her sources, you have positive momentum. It's moving. It also makes it very visible if a step is missed. You don't have to say, "Hey, why didn't you do your part?" The group can see the broken link in the chain. The social pressure is on the process, not from you.
So you're making progress visible and celebrating the small wins. It keeps the energy going.
You're making it easy to start and easy to continue. That's how you build momentum without ever having to check up on anyone.
This all sounds really good in theory, Sarah. It's a kinder, smarter way to lead. But what about the person who just doesn't care? The student who is truly lazy and is happy to let everyone else do the work? Asking nice questions won't change them. And what about a group with a really dominant person who just talks over everyone? Doesn't someone need to step in and be forceful then?
That is the real test, isn't it? Let's talk about the person who isn't contributing. This system is actually more effective at handling that than being bossy.
How?
Remember, your goal is to manage the process, not the person. When you make the next steps very small, public, and clear, it becomes incredibly obvious who is not participating. You don't have to accuse them. At the next meeting, you can simply say, "Okay, we all agreed that the next step was for John to set up the presentation template. We can't move forward until that's done. John, what do we need as a team to help you get that finished?"
You're putting the focus back on the group. You're offering help, not blame. But it's also very clear where the block is.
Precisely. You are being helpful and supportive, but you are also showing the entire team where the process has stopped. This makes it very uncomfortable for someone to do nothing. As for the dominant person, your tools work there too. When they are talking endlessly, you can gently interrupt and say, "That's a really interesting point. I want to make sure we hear from everyone on this. Maria, what are your thoughts on what we've discussed so far?"
You're using your role as a facilitator to create space for others.
You're not shutting them down. You're redirecting the flow of conversation to ensure the whole team is involved. The foundation of this entire approach is this. Your job is to articulate the things that need to happen for the group to succeed.
So I'm the voice for the process.
Yes, you articulate the shared problem to build consensus. You articulate the open questions to facilitate decision-making. And you articulate the small next steps to build momentum. You're not creating a plan from your own mind. You're helping the team discover a viable path forward together.
Okay, it's all connecting now. I'm not the boss, I'm not the hero. I'm just the person who holds the flashlight and points it at the road ahead so everyone can see where to walk next. My job is to reduce confusion.
And does that feel bossy?
No, that feels helpful. It feels like a service to the group. If I can facilitate a meeting so that we find a viable path, that's a win for everyone.
Exactly. The first step is to get consensus on the actual problem you're trying to solve. Without that, you have no foundation.
And from there, my job is to articulate the right questions to keep the momentum going. It's a system. I'm not relying on my personality or my confidence. I'm relying on a process.
A process that anyone can use. It is a skill you can learn, not a personality you must have. Now, let me ask you a final question. What happens when you're using this process and another person in the group has a better idea than yours?
Before, I would have felt a little defensive, like I had lost a competition. But now, if my goal is just to make the path forward clear for everyone, then a better idea just makes the path even clearer. It helps the group. I think I would actually be relieved and happy. My ego isn't so involved anymore.
And that is the feeling of a true leader. Hello to all our listeners. We hope this was helpful for you.
If there's a specific challenge you face in your studies or at work, something that makes you feel stuck, let us know in the comments. We might explore it in a future episode.